today I'm going to show you how to make this little double door knocker earring. Now, it's called double door knocker because these little parts lift just like a door knocker right here. And it's really kind of cute. I originally made two components and put them together. I was going to make each one just the size of one component, which you can do. So if you decide that this is a little too bold for you, it's probably about 2 inches, maybe a little more, 2.5 with your ear wire. If you decide that that's a little too bold, then you can always split them in half and just make one unit each for each earring and then just have a single door knocker. But this is what I'm going to show you how to make today. It's really pretty simple and it moves fairly quickly, so you can have the project done in no time at all. Let's look and see what we need. Okay, so for this project today, you will need 2 ear wires. I'm using a French wire in gold tone. You will also need a 4mm bicone crystal. I'm using a turquoise 4mm zillion, and it is a Swarovski. You will also need an 11/0 seed bead. I'm using Toho 11/0, and it is Starlight, which is galvanized gold tone, permanent finish Toho. Now, you will also need a 3mm round bead, and this can be anything that's 3mm round. It can be crystals, it can be drukes, it can be whatever you want. Fire polish. I'm using a glass pearl, and it is cream colored. And then you will need a size 10 beading needle and 8-pound fire line. When we start, we will make 2 separate components. Our first component, we will start with a full wingspan of thread because we will leave the thread long so that we can connect the 2 units together. On the second one, we'll use a little less, and we will cut off the thread after we tie off our piece. So let's go ahead and get started with this project. Okay, to start this piece, I'm going to pick up 3 of my 3mm rounds and 1 of my 4mm bicones. So we'll just start with 3 and then 1. And we're going to do right angle weave, and so we need 4 beads for each unit. I know I've been stuck on right angle weave lately, guys, but you know, it's just kind of my go-to stitch. But this is where we start here. We're going to go up through the last bead on our tail. So we're going to go through the last little glass pearl and pull. And we're going to pull them down into a little circle like this. Now we're going to sew all the way around the entire unit again to secure it. Because I sew back through these beads several times, I am not going to put a knot on here, so just go ahead and just sew back through. Now I'm back where my tail was. I'm going to sew all the way over until I get to this bead here. This is where I'm going to start my next unit. I'll leave my tail on this side and start on this side. So I'm going to sew back through these 3 little glass pearls here. Now I do have quite a bit of thread I'm working with now, just simply because I want this one to be the one with my extra thread so that I can connect it to my next one I'll make. Now we're going to do 4 units of right angle weave here, and we want our bicone crystal to be on the same side every time we do it. So when we're coming out of our last bead to connect our next unit, we're going to use this, we're going to share this bead. But we could either be coming out of the bottom or the top of the bead. If we're coming out of the bead where our bicone crystal, on the side that our bicone crystal is on, that's the first bead we'll pick up then, is our bicone crystal, like this. And then we're going to share this bead, so instead of picking up 3, we're going to pick up 2 of our pearls. So our next unit will be 4 beads, but all we need are 3. We'll put on our bicone first because we're coming out in the direction, from our beads, we're coming out in the direction where our bicone is. So then we will pull the beads around like this. I'm going to turn it over and just sew back up through until I get to the next bead that I'm going to connect with, and that will be this little pearl right here. So I turn it over and sew through, and then I turn it back over. You don't need to do that. It just makes it easier for me to get to it. Now we are coming out of the bottom of this bead that we're going to connect with. Since we're coming out in the direction of the pearls, we're going to pick up our pearls first. Since we're sharing this pearl, we only need 2 and not 3. So we're going to pick up 2, and then we're going to pick up 1 bicone crystal like this. And we're going to go into the opposite side of the bead that our tail is exiting from, or our working thread is exiting from, excuse me, and pull them tight. I'm not going to turn it this time so I don't confuse you. I'm just going to sew up through these 2. And up through this one. And now I am in position to add my next unit. Like I said, we're going to do 4, so this will be our last one before we turn around to make the bottom of our rectangle. So here we're coming out of the bead on the side of the bicone, so I'm going to pick up the bicone first, then I'm going to pick up my 2 little pearls because I'm sharing a pearl. I don't need 3, like this. Coming out of this side, I'm going to go into the opposite side of my pearl and pull my beads around. Now I am going to sew up through my bicone and up through the pearl that I would normally be going to add my next unit. But because we are not going to go that direction anymore, we are then going to, this would be the bead that we normally would be coming out of to make our next unit. We want to make a unit this way now so that we can make a rectangle. So we're going to come down into this bead right here. And we want our pearls on the inside and our bicone crystal on the outside. So the way we're going to make our next unit is we're just going to use this bead, not this one down here, just this bead to connect with. So if we're going to do that, and we're coming out on the side that we want our pearls on, we want our pearls on the inside. This is what I'm going to consider the inside. We will pick up 2 pearls and a bicone crystal, like this. And we will come back through the bead that we are exiting through, right here on the opposite side. Just like this. And now we have turned the corner and we have the bottom of our earring. We're going to, of our component that is, we're going to sew around this entire unit just to secure it, because otherwise it gets kind of pulled. So I'm just going to sew through here. Got my tail. And I'm just going to sew around the whole component, or unit. And come back through my connecting bead. And now that I'm through my connecting bead, I need to get over to this bead here, because it will be my next connecting bead for my other side of my rectangle. So I'm going to go here. Through this bead. And now I need to make a unit going this way with my bicone crystal out here. So this is my connecting bead. I need to pick up, first, I want my bicone to be this way, and I want a pearl down here. So first I'm going to pick up a pearl. This is the only unit that's a little bit different. I'm going to pick up a pearl, then I'm going to pick up a bicone, and then I'm going to pick up another pearl, like this, because I'm going to join to this bead right here. So I'm going to go into the opposite side, and this will put a pearl on either side of my pearl and my bicone out to the side, so that I have a nice little wall here, a nice little bottom, like this. Now I'm going to sew up through until I come up to this bead here, because now we're going to build up this way. So I need to get to the top pearl. I'm going to sew, securing everything as I do it. Just like that. Now I am in my connecting bead to start building this way. I'm coming out towards my pearls, so I will start with picking up my pearls. So I need to pick up 2 pearls and a bicone. I'm going to go into the opposite side here and pull. Now I need to get up to this bead here to connect, so I'm going to turn it and sew until I get to that bead right here. And now you can see I'm exiting this bead. I need to make 2 more units. So I am going to pick up, I'm coming out of the pearl towards the bicone crystal. So I'm going to pick up the bicone first, like this. Then I need 2 of my glass pearls. And I'm going to go back through the pearl that I'm exiting on the opposite side. Just like that. Then I'm just going to turn this over just so I can sew back up through it. I'm going to sew through my bicone and then sew through my pearl. And now I need to make 1 more unit so that this side matches this side. So I am going to pick up, and coming out of my pearl towards my pearls, so I'm going to pick up my pearls first and then a bicone. And I'm going to go back into the bead I'm exiting on the opposite side. I'm going to turn it back over so that I can sew up through these little guys. And then with this one, we need to get back to the center here. We're going to have to connect to this bead here. We're going to make this same type of unit that we did down here. So we're going to sew through, I'm coming out this bead right here as I was sewing through. I'm going to sew through this bicone. I'm going to sew through this little pearl and then exit this one right here so that I can add my unit here. So I'm going to sew through this bicone. And then through here. And then I'm going to sew up into this pearl right here. And then I'm going to add a unit on the top here. Now I'm coming out towards the top. And so what I need to do is add my bicone first. And because I want my bicone to be on the bottom just like this one, I want it to be facing outward towards the outside of my rectangle. So I'm going to pick up my bicone first, and then I'm going to use this bead, and then add another bead here for my unit. So I'm picking up my bicone, I'm going to go into this bead on the opposite side here and pull it through. Just like that. And then I'm going to pick up a pearl. I'm coming out of this pearl. I'm going to go into this pearl right here and pull. And now I've got a nice little square, rectangle, whatever you want to call it. It's a rectangle actually. Once I get going and I put my little corners on and stuff, it'll be more rectangular. So I'm going to sew back through this entire unit that I just made. All of the beads that are connecting to each other. And secure this. Now this is secure enough. I'm going to cut off my tail. I'll leave a little bit so later I can sear it with a lighter. to seal it, but right now I just want it out of my way, so I'm just going to cut it off like that just to get it out of the way. There we go. And I'm going to continue sewing around my unit here. Once I get all the way around and I'm exiting this bicone, I am then going to sew back down into the same unit so that I can get to the center and make my little embellishments in the center here. So I'm going to sew back down through this bead right here. Okay, now we're going to make a little embellishment here, but first we need to sew around and put in some 11/0 seed beads to stiffen this up and frame it. I'm going to come into this bead here, the bottom one of my unit, and I'm going to start picking up 11/0s and putting it between the beads. So I've got 11/0 seed bead, and I'm going from here to here. Just going to sew between all the center beads here, placing an 11/0 right in the space between them, like this. I got one of my dog hairs in there. Oh, there we go. And then again, place an 11/0 right between the beads. And again, all the way around all these center beads. And pull it tight. Okay, when we come to the last one, make sure you don't go through the 11/0, just come through the purl. And pop your 11/0 in there. Now, we're going to make our little door knocker section. So we're going to pick up an 11/0, two 11/0s actually, a bicone crystal, and then an 11/0, like this. We're going to drop these down to our work, like this. Now we're going to go around the 11/0 seed bead and back up into the bicone crystal. And the 11/0, just one 11/0 on top. And pull that tight. Make sure there's no slack in your thread. Now this is what you should have. You should be exiting the top 11/0. Just the top one, not the one on top of it. Then pick up another 11/0 and go back through the purl on the work in just the purl. And pull. And now you have a door knocker like this. Now we're exiting this bead here. We're going to come up into the bead right next to it. Oops. Let me pull my work all over the place here. Just come up through this little purl here. Exit this top purl. So you're coming up here, exit through the top. And now you will pick up three 11/0 seed beads. We're going to make a little corner picot here. So we're just going to go from this bead, this purl, to this bicone. And we're going to pull these little beads down into a little peak. Just have to arrange them until they make a picot, like this. Now we're going to go between the beads with 11/0s. This will firm up your piece and get us to the next corner. So let's just start placing 11/0s between all the bicones here. And when you get to the end of your row here, we're on the corner again, between this bicone and this pearl, we're going to make a picot. So we're going to pick up 3 11-0 seed beads. We're going to go from this bead directly into this bead, and that will form a little picot corner. Oops. Knocking stuff out on my desk here. Just like that. Now, we're going to go from the pearl to the bicone, and we're going to pick up 11-0 seed beads and pull through. Full wingspan might be a little much even with sewing these together of thread, but you can kind of judge. Once you make one, you'll kind of figure it out. Okay, now I've put 11-0 between this bead, these 2 beads, and these 2 beads. Now I'm to the corner, and again I'm going to make a picot, so I'm going to pick up 3 beads, 3 11-0s, and go from this one to this one, and pull it into a corner, and then work my way back up to the top, just placing 11-0 seed beads in between my bicone crystals here. My door knocker is stuck. There we go. And I'm going to ignore my little piece of tail I left there. And I'm to the corner again, so I'm going to pick up 3 11-0 seed beads, like this, and go from the bicone to the pearl, and pull. Okay, so I will need to do something with that little piece of thread there real soon, because it's bugging me. But that's okay. Now I am to the top of my piece. I'm going to pick up an 11-0, and I'm going to go through and place it between the bicone and the pearl. And then again, I'm going to place this. At this time, I need to sew all the way back around so that I can get over here to put my my top. This is going to be my top piece. So I am going to go through this pearl here, and I will go through the 11-0s on top. So you can just go ahead and grab an 11-0. I'm going to put my ear wire on top of this one. So I want to get myself back in position. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm just going to, this is the one I'm going to connect with. So we'll do the ear wire on the other one. We're just going to go into the corner here, into the picot, right here. Just like this. And we're going to sew all the way down, because we're going to connect, yes, this is fine. Just like this. Sorry, confused myself. Didn't mean to confuse you. But this is how I want to be. This will be my bottom unit of my earring, because I have 2 of them, like this. I'm going to leave this long thread on this piece so that I can connect like I did here. I will go ahead and make another unit, just like I made this one, using a little bit less thread, because we're going to use this long, or quite a bit less thread actually, because we're going to use this long one to connect, and we will also use it to put our ear wire on with, perhaps. So anyway, go ahead and just take your needle off, put on another piece of thread, and make another unit just like this, and we'll be back. Okay, so I have made my second unit, and I'm coming out right here after I came through and put my little 11-0 seed bead. So I'm coming out right up out of this little pearl here. Now, either way that you've ended up going, you're going to come out of a pearl on the top here. And we need to get ourselves back around so that we can connect our top. So we'll just go ahead and make our ear wire connection on this one, and then we'll use the long thread we left to connect the ones on the bottom. Now with your thread, you're only going to need a little over arm's length even for your longer one. So a full wingspan is a little too much. So anyway, I'm coming out of this little pearl here. I'm going to sew up through this little picot. So I'm going to sew through this little bead that I just added into this one on top, into the bottom one, and the bicone crystal. I am then going to sew around this entire unit here, right through here. So I'm going to go through here, then I'm going to go up through this pearl here, maybe, there we go. It's getting a little thread tight. Up through here, and then I'm going to sew into this bicone crystal and into the 11-0 seed bead on the other side of it, right here. And this is where I will start my connection. So I'm going to pick up an 11-0 seed bead, a bicone crystal, and an 11-0 seed bead. Now I want to make sure that everything is going to be the right direction. You want both of your door knockers down. So you want to make sure as you're doing this that you have them both on the right side, not on the back like this, because you want your door knockers sticking out, and that your connection is ready. They'll both be the same direction. So I'm going to now pick up my ear wire. Make sure your ear wire is facing down like this and go through it. Then pick up another 11-0, pick up a bicone crystal and an 11-0, just like this. Then we will go through this 11-0 on the other side of the middle bicone crystal here. And we will go through the bicone, just like that, and pull it all down tight. Like this. Now we will sew back around this entire thing, and you can do that as many times as you want. Go back into the little 11-0 on the other side of the bicone, and then up through the bicone in your connection for your wire. And just, it's fairly obvious, just sew back through all the beads and the ear wire. This needs to be pulled very tightly. See how I'm kind of pulling it loose? When I get back down through here, through my bicone, I'm going to pull it very tightly. Now you can sew through this as many times as you want to make sure that it's nice and secure. For the sake of my video length, I'm just going to go ahead and end it here. So I'm going to go down into this pearl here, into this one here, and down into this bicone. Just going to avoid those 11-0s. And right here, there's a thread bridge. I'm going to grab this thread bridge and I'm going to tie a little half hitch knot. And then I'm going to go back down into a couple more beads. And I will cut my thread off right there. Hide my thread. Now I have the top of my earring, just like this. Now I'm going to grab my other component. I have a little too much thread for this, so I'm going to cut it a little bit. I'm going to put my needle onto the thread for the last component, and we will be back and connect these. Okay, so now I have put my needle onto my thread for my first component here. Make sure your component is in the right, you want everything to be the right way, your little door knockers down, and you're coming out of this little picot in the corner. You're going to pick up an 11-0, a bicone crystal, and an 11-0. And from this picot, you're going to go into the corner one of this picot here. Pull them down like that. Then pick up another 11-0 and a bicone and an 11-0. From this picot, we're going to go back into the one we started in, the very top little bead, and pull them into a circle like this. Now I'm going to sew back through this entire unit to make sure my connection is strong and neat. So I'll just go back up through here. Now, of course, I'm all the way through, but I have to work my way all the way back up to this bead here so that I can move over to my other side to connect. So I'm going to go around this a little bit more. All the way around this unit until I get back to the connecting picot bead. So now I'm coming out of the bead I connected to. I'm going to sew up into the bead in the picot, the one next to the one I'm coming out of, and then into the pearl and the 11-0 here. I'm just going to sew all the way to the other side of this component, go through the bicone and the pearl and the 11-0, and go through this 11-0 here, and then back into the corner one here. I have to do one at a time. Right here. Now I'm ready to make my next connection. So I'm going to pick up an 11-0, a bicone crystal, and an 11-0, and I'm going to go down into the corner picot here. I'm going to pick up an 11-0, a bicone crystal, and an 11-0, and I'm going to go back into my connecting bead on my picot. Now I have to sew around this entire unit again. Make sure everything's arranged really pretty before you secure it, and just sew around the entire unit that you just created. Like so. I'm going to sew down through the unit again and into my work and tie off. So I'm going to go down here, go back into my connecting picot, go into the bottom bead on my picot here, and then into this little pearl, if I can do it. Beads are getting a little tight. I'm just going to sew over to the side so I can tie off on the side of my work here. I'm just going to keep working over. And go down a couple of these beads here. And I'll catch a knot right here, a half hitch knot. You can sew through as much as you like until you feel secure. I'm just going to sew down a couple more. And then I think I'll just cut my thread off as close as I can. You can, of course, leave a little bit and use a lighter with it if you'd like. I'm just going to poke that thread to the back here, like that. Lift my little door knockers up a little bit. And call it good. Just like this. Back off a little bit and you can see what we've just created. And there are our double door knocker earrings. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and make you some. See you later. Bye-bye.